Let's continue with something a bit more complicated. Federico, do you have any ideas?
Yeah, I have an idea that we can try to create a tic-tac-toe. We're going to create, as I said, a tic-tac-toe using JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Why we're going to use these technologies? Because in comparison to other complex programming languages, you need an IDE, you need something else, and more things that might not be what you would like. Well, in this case, it's something that we can test, and if we need to modify something, we can do it. So let's see what ChatGPT can provide us. For sure, what it's going to do is going to do an analysis inside of the websites or other sources that it has, and it starts generating the information that we need. Probably we'll need to combine them because in some cases, what ChatGPT does is that it splits the results. The first thing that you can see, as you see, is the HTML. In some cases, it can combine all the code into one, but it's not always the case.
Oh, it has separated the files.
Yeah. That's why in the end, we will need to add some HTML code to finish it, but well, sometimes happens. But in the end, imagine if you would like to build this and you don't know too much about JavaScript or CSS, you might invest a lot of time from your own code. And that's a tricky thing because imagine all the time that you spend into writing this code when you don't know enough or you need to test, think, and build even a small game that can be even a small thing for your child.
So it created for you 3 files, one HTML, one CSS, and one JavaScript, and now it is giving you an explanation.
Yeah, but the JavaScript, in my opinion, is incomplete because for sure it's not doing everything that we need. And we can ask, complete the JavaScript.
Why do you think it's not complete? Looks pretty much complete to me. Can you try it? Yeah,
let's check it. Now we're going to test the code. How we're going to do it? We're going to use a simple notepad. This is a little bit more advanced called Notepad++, where we copy the sections of the code. This is the HTML. We need to add the style. Then we can copy the style. And finally, we can add the script. As you see in this case, it didn't provide us the entire code so you can just copy and paste. You might need to have some knowledge for these sections. And then we have in theory, the functional code. We can add it as a game. And now we can run it in the browser, which is one of the advantages. But in my opinion, the code seems to be wrong.
It's not doing anything, right?
Yeah. Now we will ask to create something more complex that probably it will make it work. Which in my opinion, something didn't work as expected, and it's creating even a quite complex code, to be honest.
Wow, it has all of the winning combinations.
Yeah, I expected something differently, to be honest.
Interesting. What did you expect?
I remember that once I tested this code and I created like something more dynamic instead of creating the winning combinations, which in my opinion can be tricky because this is a simple game, but if you had a more complex game, like let's say a chess, it will not work. But yeah, it's creating the code, which is the most important part. And we will see if this time it's working because probably either I made a mistake or ChatGPT made a mistake. We will see who is the one who made the mistake.
So just one question, like, can you check the HTML code and see whether it created you like it created for you some how to say it, like some tags to link the CSS and the JS files?
Well, in theory, it created all because this is called tic-tac-toe.
Oh, but like go up, please, to the beginning of the Yeah, that's the beginning of the code, right? Okay, so it actually didn't. Okay, that was like a quite simple tic-tac-toe.
Yeah, now in theory we have the new code. We can replace the JS because for me it seems like now we should have a new one. I don't think that it's really working. Something seems to be broken. Yeah, something is broken.
Something is off, yeah.
Yeah. And that's where you can see that some mistakes happen. Because we come to analyze what is the code behind, and it says a new game button. In theory, there is a button that it didn't create that is called new game.
The ID should be new game.
Yeah.
So do you have that in the HTML?
No, it doesn't exist.
Right.
Yeah, and this is where we can see that it created a lot of code, but it's not really working. So let's modify it.
So probably it did it did use different sources for every time you asked it to create like the code, it used different sources.
Now it seems that it looks different. Let's do a new game.
Okay, still not. Still not working.
Maybe I did a mistake. Oh yeah, I made a mistake. This was my mistake, not ChatGPT's mistake.
Yeah, but it's still not working.
Let's see if we can create a new one. Let's say regenerate the answer, or let's create a new one.
Oh wow, it did apologize. That's something funny. At least you know that this tool knows manners.
Yeah. Now it's creating a completely different one that it seems a bit more sophisticated, to be honest.
It already has the style, and as you can see that it starts with doc type HTML, HTML tags, etc., and all the CSS is included already.
Yeah.
Inside one file.
And this looks even different because the previous case it was using a tab, another logic. Now it's using like a newer code.
Yeah. Oh, there's the button.
Yeah, the button.
There you go. There you go. That's the button what we were expecting.
Probably the main issue is that the previous time it was using the different JavaScript code, let's say CSS and HTML, because it looks different, but the JavaScript, it looks exactly the same.
Yeah, I remember having these combinations in the previous run, in the previous code.
That the JavaScript is the same. It's just that the CSS and the HTML now, probably that was the mistake.
You know what I find really useful is that it even gives you some comments on every line of code. What is it doing and what it is actually for?
What the developers don't do often.
Well, we can have a big discussion about that, Rico, because I don't do it either. And I think it's a good practice not to have it.
So as you see, it didn't.
So did it finish?
It didn't finish the code because it has a limit in the amount of characters. However, we can copy the next part of the code and see how it behaves. Because the difficult thing is that, as Edgar said previously, probably it was using a different source and it was breaking everything. So let's see how it behaves now. We have the new code. We might need to close some things that were not done.
Okay.
And in theory now we have the new code that should work slightly different.
Oh, it even looks differently.
It looks differently, but it seems that I'm not sure if the new is required. It's not working. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but
Did you copy the JavaScript? Because I think you didn't.
I hope it did. Let's ask ChatGPT, can you complete the JavaScript?
It's apologizing again. This tool, ChatGPT, really knows its manners.
It is more educated than the majority of people.
It is indeed.
It's creating a lot of code, even though you might expect that the application will create the small things. Let's see if this time it works, because it is tricky that it didn't do anything.
But if you can see, like most of the code is very similar to what we have seen in the previous attempts.
Yeah, I would be quite impressed if it's different.
Although this time it looks a bit more extensive. Okay, now it's writing the explanation, so it has finished the code.
Okay, in theory we have the new code. Maybe we can move it to the upper part, but I don't think it should influence anyway. Okay, now it should be ready.
Oh,
It's giving.
no, you have to keep it at the lower part because of this. And it's still not working. Oh, someone wins.
We won.
What happened?
The funny thing is that we won, but it didn't show any X or
You
zero.
won, but like,
So it is not working.
okay, try it again. Try it again.
Okay, we're getting a new
Oh,
section
wow.
of the code.
Okay.
Let's see if this time it works, because it is funny that we even asked that it didn't recognize the things and it's creating a new one. Let's see if it really works, because the stuff is that it has been not working. We need to search for this that says place mark.
Place mark. Yeah. It's now it's 3 lines of code, right?
Okay, I feel it like the same. Let's do an empty cache and hard reset. Okay.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Oh, X wings.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. New game? Yeah, try it out. Oh, okay, now the new game button is not working.
Okay, so let's see if we can finally clean it and fix it.
You know what I find really interesting is that it recognizes that its own functions have some problems and proposes a solution.
Yeah, which is something that sometimes is not so common. It works similar to a human. You make a lot of mistakes and then you try to fix it.
You start debugging and debugging.
Typical coders.
Yeah, it's a bit more
extensive. So
Let's see.
check.
There you go. Recognize. Yeah. Oh, there you go. It looks like it's working now. Oh, yeah, X-Wings. Yeah. What happened there? Was it right?
Yeah. Well, it said there was a draw.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. Like, I saw two messages immediately, so I didn't get what was happening.
Oh, it even understood where could be the problem.
Okay, can you see this? If check for win is actually called before. Okay, let's just wait for it to give you the code. Yeah, it's still a bit more
complex.
Mm-hmm.
Draw.
Draw. Yeah, that's correct. Now
the
make
next
it
test.
x0 x. There you go.
There was a draw.
Yeah, that's correct. Seems to be working correctly now.
Yeah, now it seems to be working correctly.
There you go.
Now it's working perfectly. We had several tries.
Great. Let's discuss it.
It wasn't perfect at all.
Yeah, yeah. It needed many attempts and many iterations. How many?
I think it was like 4, if I'm not wrong.
4, 5. And also something important was that it was not like runnable code, what you got immediately. Instead, like the first attempt, for instance, you had to create the 3 files and you needed to actually include the tags into the HTML. So it's not something that you can run immediately. On the second attempt, though, it did give you one, like all the code in one file, right?
Yeah.
So this was more of a runnable version, but still it contained many bugs. So
Yeah.
what do you think about it? Well, what are your thoughts on it, Federico?
Well, even if we got a lot of bugs, we save a lot of time. And if I was seeing it from the developer's perspective, developers are lazy and developers don't want to code. So it simplifies your life. In the end, you will need to modify some stuff, but in the end, it provided you with the answers without going to Stack Overflow, without going to the internet, Googling a lot of forums. In the end, it provided you with the answer. It was not in the first attempt, but it solved the task, and that's the most important. If we think how long it took us to create the game, maybe like 20 minutes, something like that, or a little bit less, just with a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
And in the average time, if you are doing as a coder, probably you will invest a larger amount of time if you're not only in the, let's say, game development sector.
Yeah, that's something important. Yeah, it greatly increased our productivity, let's say. First of all, we didn't have to implement any business logic. We didn't have to implement any logic about the game. We didn't have to worry about any, how to say it, any singularities about handling the events in JavaScript and how to call these like new game buttons and all these kind of functions. We didn't think about it. We were just doing some sort of mechanical work, let's say, in adding these small tags or maybe changing some functions after the many iterations that we had. but we didn't have to think, like put our brain power into it. So, well, that can be actually like a win and a loss, because as a software developer, you really want to put your brain power, right? On the other side, like as we saw with a couple of questions, we were able to create this tic-tac-toe.